Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the DCM Shriram Limited Q2 FY22 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference, please signal an operator by pressing star and then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Siddharth Rangnekar from CDR India. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on DCM Shriram Limited's Q2 and H1 FY22 earnings conference call. Today we have with us Mr. Ajay Shriram, Chairman and Senior Managing Director, Mr. Vikram Shriram, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Ajit Shriram, Joint Managing Director, Mr. K.K. Kaul, Whole-Time Director, and Mr. Amit Agarwal, CFO of the company. We will commence the opening remarks with Mr. Ajay Shriram and Mr. Vikram Shriram, following which we will have an interactive question and answer session. Before we begin, please note that some of the statements made on today's call could be forward-looking in nature, and a note to that effect has been included in the conference call invite that has been circulated earlier. I would now like to invite Mr. Ajay Shriram to give us a brief overview on the company's performance and his views going forward. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Siddharth. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on our Q2 and H1 financial year 22 earnings conference call. I will take you through the business development. After that, Vikram will share with you the financial perspective. We are glad to report another quarter of robust performance. Our businesses are stable, and we are investing in growing them by adding scale, integration, and cost competitiveness. Owing to our strong business model developed over the years, we continue to make healthy progress despite the challenging environment. Some of our businesses are facing challenges from a volatile global business environment in terms of increasing commodity prices as well as increasing energy prices, which are having a positive as well as negative impact on our businesses. This is also bringing uncertainty to future economic environment and consumer behavior given the inflationary pressures. The capital expenditure programs announced over the last 12 months are expected to be commissioned as per schedule and will further help us maintain growth momentum with stronger businesses and reduce risk on account of volatility. With that, I would now like to walk you through our business-wise key developments. Sugar. India witnessed record exports of 7.1 million tons during sugar year 21 and diverted 2 million tons of sugar to ethanol using B-heavy molasses, resulting in a stock of 8.5 million tons at the end of sugar season 2021. With lower inventory levels and firm international prices, domestic prices are good and are currently trading around rupees 3,700 per quintal. Crushing for sugar season 2022 is expected from end October, and early estimates suggest production of about 31 million tons for the year. With a stable demand at about 26 million tons and estimated export of 6 million tons, inventory at the end of sugar season 22 is likely to further reduce to about 7.5 million tons. The cane prices have risen for the coming season, with Government of India increasing FRP by rupees 5 per quintal and Uttar Pradesh government increasing SAP by rupees 25 per quintal. This will put pressure on margins if the domestic sugar prices fall below ballpark rupees 3,550 per quintal. For the sugar season ending 30th September 21, the sugar revenue was down by 14% because of lower monthly quota release by the government, which is a function of lower inventory levels. This season, no additional export quota was declared, unlike sugar season 1920. Distillery revenue was up by 38% with the new distillery of 200 kiloliters per day, commissioned in December 19 at our Ajbapur unit. EBITDA margins of the business for the two seasons have been largely the same. Government is committed to its 20% ethanol blending target by 2025. Present season saw blending rates reaching approximately 8%. We also expect a revision in ethanol prices for next season in view of the increase in sugarcane and sugar prices. Work on putting up our grain-based 120 kiloliters per day distillery at Ajwapur is progressing as per schedule. Chemicals. There is a supply chain disruption at global level due to the impact of Hurricane Ida in the US, recent Chinese government's dual control policy for energy consumption and intensity, as well as closure of a few capacities in the US. Further, easing of pandemic restrictions amid declining infection rates is leading to increased demand. Both these factors are leading to higher price realization as well as higher capacity utilization. India continues to push exports with caustic soda exports for Q2 financial year 22 at 56,737 metric tons compared to 48,600 metric tons in Q2 financial year 21, an increase of 17%. During Q2, high input costs of coal as well as salt have largely offset the gain from larger volumes and realization. However, in coming months, the gain from higher realizations may more than offset input cost pressures. Our downstream projects are expected to be commissioned on schedule and will facilitate better value add and provide hedge for volatility. The 120 megawatt captive power plant will add to earnings driven by cost efficiency. The 700 tons per day chlor-alkali expansion, along with the 500 tons per day flaker, will further increase our scale. Vinyl. PVC import prices continue to remain firm, with prices reaching $1,800 per metric ton. Our PVC prices were over rupees 1,50,000 per metric ton in the month of September 2021, moving in line with international trends. Higher prices have more than offset the impact of higher input prices during the quarter. However, we are seeing a continuing increase in power costs given the steep rise in coal prices. Agri inputs. The segment covers Shriram Farm Solutions, Bioseed, and the fertilizer businesses. For Bioseed and Shriram Farm Solutions, Q2 is an off-season. For H1, the disruption in the rural landscape owing to higher impact of second wave in rural areas, coupled with an erratic monsoon, depressed the performance of the agri businesses. Flooding in key cropping areas in India was another factor. Consequently, revenues were impacted in Bioseed India operations in H1. Shriram Farm Solutions business was also marginally impacted. However, with adequate water availability, the Rabi season is expected to be closer to normal, and this bodes well for SFS, for whom Rabi is the main season. Our emphasis remains on value-added inputs and research-based products, which will bring good growth to both these businesses. Fertilizers saw higher revenues, which were driven by higher gas prices. Subsidy outstanding for the business stood lower at rupees 266 crores as on 30th September 2021 versus 465 crores as on 30th September 2020, which is a paradigm shift. The significant rise in gas prices, we expect the subsidy amount to increase till it gets notified. Fenesta. Fenesta reported a strong performance given base impact for the first wave last year and demand build up post the second wave since Q1 financial year 22. Order booking is higher by 63% year on year during Q2 financial year 22. The business is benefiting by way of increase in reach and diversity of product range. It is our earnest endeavor to drive continuous growth through enhanced capacity utilization while maintaining a sharp focus on delivering efficiency. As a natural progression of our strategy, wherever prudent, we are adding investments in downstream and value-added product lines and capacity additions with the view to have an enhanced profitability footprint on a sustained basis. With this, I will now request Vikram to take the discussion forward. Vikram, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I will now take you through the financial highlights for the quarter. Net revenues grew 5% year-on-year to rupees 2,145 crores versus 2,047 crores in Q2 financial year 21. I will now apprise you on the businesses that have significantly impact on revenue during the quarter. Revenues for chlorovinyl segment was up 56% to rupees 814 crores. Chemical business revenues were up 37% year-on-year at rupees 483 crores in Q2, driven by both volumes and prices. PVC revenues were up for 94% year-on-year at rupees 332 crores, driven primarily by higher prices of products. With the recovery in demand post the second wave of COVID-19, our PVC sales volume saw an increase of 60% quarter-on-quarter. Fenesta revenues were up 40% year-on-year at rupees 130 crores in the period. There was an improvement in retail as well as projects verticals. For chlorovinyl and Fenesta businesses, Q2 last year was seeing a gradual improvement in demand post the COVID-19 induced strict lockdowns in April and May 20. Overall, sugar business revenues net of excise duty on country liquor were down 29% year-on-year at 590 crores as a result of lower sugar volumes. Prices for sugar and ethanol were better. Fertilizer revenues stood higher by 34% at rupees 293 crores, consequent to higher gas prices, which in Q2 have gone up from USD 6.5 per million BTU to USD 13.7 per million BTU. Current prices are over USD 14. Higher gas price is a pass-through, but it impacts the subsidy outstanding. On profitability front in Q2 financial year 22, PBDIT improved by 30% year-on-year at rupees 311 crores. Plastics PBDIT came in at rupees 156 crores. Better prices were the key driver for the earnings. Chemicals PBDIT at rupees 108 crores was led by higher volumes and firmness in product prices. Key inputs, more particularly power and fuel costs in chlorovinyl business, came in significantly higher year-on-year as well as quarter-on-quarter. Overall, sugar business PBDIT came in lower at 42% year-on-year, rupees 33 crores, mainly due to lower volumes in the business. Additionally, higher rate of purchased molasses also contributed to lower earnings. Bioseed came in at negative rupees 14 crores. Performance was impacted by earnings from India and international operations due to lower volumes. For international businesses, it was only a timing difference. Moving into first half of financial year 22. Net revenues were higher by 4% year-on-year at rupees 4,102 crores. Chlorovinyl revenues were up 68% at rupees 1,413 crores, driven by volumes and prices. Fenesta revenues was up 79% at 239 crores, led by volumes. It is important to mention here that chlorovinyl and Fenesta had a low base in half year financial year 21, given the impact of first wave of COVID-19 pandemic that year. Compared to half one financial year 20, chlorovinyl grew 13%, led by PVC and carbide prices. Fenesta grew by 5% over for half one financial year 20. Sugar segment revenues, net of excise duty on country liquor sales, were lower by 32% year-on-year at rupees 1,153 crores. This is being the result of lower sugar volumes both in domestic markets and exports. On sugar basis, the revenues were down by about 14%. Revenues in the fertilizer business were 22% higher at rupees 513 crores on account of higher gas prices. Volumes in Q1 were lower since the plant operated at low capacity due to a partial breakdown. The plant is stable now. Bioseed international revenues stood higher by 12% year-on-year at rupees 75 crores, driven by higher corn and paddy sales. Bioseed India revenues were at rupees 191 crores, down 21% year-on-year, owing to lower volumes given the impact of the pandemic and erratic monsoons. Coming to the PBDIT for the first half, we saw the same rising 42% year-on-year at rupees 611 crores versus 432 crores for first half financial year 21. The reason for the improvements are in line with the explanations provided above. Coming to the balance sheet position, the company had surplus cash of rupees 679 net of its debt as on 30th September 21 versus net debt of 242 crores as of 30th September 2020 and rupees 180 crores on 31st March 2021. There is seasonality in capital employed, which is generally at the lowest level at the end of second quarter and then starts building up during the sugar season. Increasing in the capex also, as well as build up on account of fertilizer subsidy, will add to the build-up. ROCE came in at 23.3% for Q2 financial year 22 on trailing annualized basis versus 18% for FY21 and 15.5% for Q2 financial year 21. During the quarter, the board declared an interim dividend of 230%, amounting to rupees 71.7 crores. On the whole, the company delivered an encouraging performance during the period under review. We have a strong financial position and will maintain adequate liquidity while continuing to implement CapEx and adding to growth of all our businesses. That brings me to the end of the financial discussion, and we will be happy to take questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who has a question may enter star and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We'll take our first question from the line of Ahmed from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Sir, if we look at our Q1 realization, it was about 24,300 and Q2 realization for the caustic business is about 24,900. So there is barely 2.5% improvement. Well, if you look at the import prices, they have moved from about $300, $350 to about $400, $450. So, sir, can you please explain why there is this divergence between the realization and the import prices?
Amit?
Yeah, see, if you see our results presentation, the prices have seen an uptick over the period, right? So if you look at June, the prices, import prices were about 376, and it is only now in September we saw the prices moving up to 450, and obviously after September they've gone up further. So even we have seen an improvement in prices. So in June our prices were about 23,800, and in September our prices were about 26,600. So we are seeing gradual improvement in prices, and there's always a bit of a lag between the international prices and domestic prices.
How long the lag will be? How many months?
Please go ahead, Ahmed.
My question is, what will be the lag between the import price and the realization? Will it be 3 months or 2 months, 1 month? Can you please quantify?
sometimes it's very difficult to say what can be the lag, but yes, it can vary between maybe 15 days, 10 days to a month.
I'll just add, Ahmed, there will be a lag because normally when we sell products, it's also on some of them on a contract basis for a month or 2 months or 3 months, depending on the relationship with the customer and how we work with them on the past also. So each deal has its own nuances because we work long term with customers. So there can be a lag.
Okay, sir. Okay, understood.
So if we refer to page 16 of your presentation, there's a graph you all have provided. The red line and the blue line both have shown periodic convergence and divergence. Is that the pattern that we should expect in the future? And is it that the last quarter there was some compression and in time it's reasonable for us to expect some divergence again?
See, if you are looking at this graph on page 16, see the trend largely remains the same. As CMD sir mentioned, that there will be a lag depending on the kind of contracts we have, because at times we have contracts which we would have made in September for supplies in October. Now, if October international prices, as we speak today, they are over 700. But we may not be able to charge the same price for that customer with whom we entered the contract in September. So there will be, and that will cause these charts not to move exactly in the same pattern. But yes, overall, medium-term trend would largely be the same as is depicted in this chart as well.
Okay, that helps. So, on the last question on this, could you clarify the time periods of contracts that you normally enter?
So it generally would vary from customer to customer. It's difficult to give exact number, but it varies the timing. I mean, today if I want to enter
the person you have called has put you on hold. You can wait or call again later.
Sorry about that, so you may go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was saying was it will all depend, Ahmed, and depends on the industry or the timing as to what will be the length of the contract. But generally, we would prefer a contract which is 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, that kind of nature, generally.
Okay, understood.
And sir, follow-up question will be based on your commentary where you mentioned that the improvement in realization will flow to the bottom line and it won't be absorbed by the cost. So can you please quantify what will be the impact of increase in the input cost, salt and coal, and how will be the profitability move in caustic segment?
I'll just add, Amit, I'll let you go. Ahmed, I want to mention that what we've seen compared to the first quarter, the coal price has gone up by about 30%. The price of salt has gone up substantially also. Now, it was the monsoons also when salt shortage takes place and then the prices peak a little more. So it's very difficult to give any correlation between the increase in the price of these products because the price of the inputs depends on the availability, and you've seen worldwide the price of coal, for instance, has gone through the roof. It's gone up because of the price of coal as well as the issue of non-availability of ships and the freight costs, which have gone up from $9-10 to $35-40 freight costs. The finished product has had its impact due to different circumstances and reasons. So I think it's very difficult to give a correlation of how they'll both function one vis-a-vis the other. And very often, it actually happens that they move independent.
Fine. So I'll simplify question. Say currently I think spot prices of imports are about $500 per ton for caustic. Now say in next 3 to 6 months we reach that level of $500 a ton in a realization. So the entire improvement in realization, will it be absorbed by the cost itself or some will be moved to, incremental will move to our bottom line?
I'll put it this way. As a company, we are always seeing how do we compete and be competitive in our cost of production. So the last 3-4 months, we have very aggressively moved to use a lot more biomass as our input for our power plant compared to only coal. We've also started using a lot more lignite compared to what we used earlier, which is lower cost of energy. So we are continuously moving to see how we can improve or reduce our costs, improve efficiencies on an ongoing basis. A lot of it depends. You would have read 2 days ago, it started coming that the coal prices in China are coming down. Now, what is the impact of that down the line? We don't know. But, so it's a very volatile market. At the moment, our approach is, one, having adequate availability of the coal and biomass and lignite, etc., because the shortage in India, which, again, because of the public power plants having shortage of coal, the availability and the supply to private sector has come down dramatically from Coal India and others. So we are ensuring having adequate availability so we can produce full and run as efficiently as possible. So these things are matching all the time, and we are playing that game, and we are coming out fairly okay.
Okay, sir, understood. Sir, can you please quantify what percentage will be biomass and the alternative fuels?
This varies. We are already working on seeing how much we can take it up, and it depends. Kota is separate, Gujarat is separate, availability is separate. Each power plant has a particular capability of how much they can take. So it varies a lot tremendously between 10% to 20%. So it depends a lot. Similarly, lignite, because lignite has different, unlike coal, the calorific value of lignite is lower. So that has its own nuances. So we are always playing around with what we can do to optimize the input of raw material into each boiler so that we optimize that.
Okay, sir, understood. And sir, the one more question on the bioseed part. So we have about 450 to 500 crore capital employed in the bioseed business. What is the strategic perspective going forward on this segment?
KK, आप बताइए. You're on mute, KK. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, if you're talking about the expectations for Rabi, yes, because of more than the normal rains, the expectations are that Rabi should be a good cropping time. And therefore, although we don't have a very significant portfolio in the Rabi, but in general, it should be a good season. And this also is the time for us to actually further promote our upcoming products, pipeline products. So they should also be to help us in the next kharif in terms of the cotton.
Sir, I'm asking from 3-year perspective.
From a 3-year perspective?
Yes.
Yeah, we are quite hopeful. Our pipeline is strong. Yes, this year, as you possibly know, that because of several conditions, the cotton crop didn't do well because of percentage of illegal sales happening all over, more than 20%. Then because of erratic monsoon in the kharif period, the cotton was adversely affected. There were also no government subsidy programs. So this year, kharif was pretty bad. But yes, if the conditions are favorable, the rains are good, we have a very good pipeline.
So can we expect our losses in H2 to scale down in 3 to 4 years?
Surely, we hope, even this year in cotton, some of our new products which we have commercialized in the last 1 or 2 years have done pretty well. There we have been able to scale up. So we're quite hopeful, yes, the coming year should be good because our coming up products are good. I mean, their acceptance is good, that's what it is.
Okay, that's fine. And the last question from my side. Sir, if we see on sugar side, the ethanol mix in Q1, B heavy was about 2.9 crore liter and C heavy was about 0.3 crore liter. And in Q2, it was about 1.6 and 1.2 respectively. So what would be the optimal ethanol mix on an annual basis?
What we want to do actually, Ahmed, is to maximize our B heavy ethanol, B heavy molasses to manufacture ethanol. So that's our endeavor, except for what we need to make for country liquor. Only that part we make from C heavy. Otherwise, we want to divert maximum sucrose to manufacturing ethanol and maximizing quantity. Just to give you a perspective, in H1, our ethanol production was up by roughly 3% compared to the previous year, and the sales volume of H1 was roughly 4% lower than the last year. That's because of this demand and supply and the tendering. But as I mentioned earlier, our endeavor is to maximize the B heavy molasses to manufacture ethanol, and that's how we've seen the increase in the quantum by 3%. which is also aided by our new distillery in Exhaustible.
Thank you, sir. That's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on good set of numbers. So the first question is on chlor-alkali. So I understand that there has been some demand-supply mismatch in the domestic market, and the prices have gone up, and probably players have resorted to more exports because better realizations. What is your sense on this? And on the coal cost front, what are the measures that we have taken to alleviate the pain from higher coal cost or non-availability? Thank you.
I think on the caustic soda side, frankly speaking, it's good to see that with the economy in India picking up, caustic soda demand is also picking up at the range of 5-6% a year, which has been the normal sort of growth of the chlor-alkali business in India. So that's a positive sign. International prices going up gives a little extra impetus of exporting so that there's a balance in the domestic market. So that is the approach of why one wants to look at the exports of caustic soda. So there's a balance between the pricing in the Indian market vis-a-vis demand, supply demand, and also with the international prices going up, that's an added impetus of doing exports now. The figures I gave you was for the last quarter, and this coming quarter, we don't know how it's going to evolve, but I think exports should also be there in this coming quarter also. On the issue of coal, I think the challenge is many. It is also first and foremost on availability, because that's a big challenge. The international prices have gone up dramatically. Even the auctions which are held in India by Coal India, there the prices have gone up dramatically. So that's why, as I mentioned a little earlier, we're looking at all types of fuel to feed into our boilers, not only, but all types of coal also, which have different calorific values, as well as using lignite, as well as using biomass. So we are trying to optimize and see what we can get. The main challenge is getting the coal and having a stock. And due to the efforts of our purchase team, we have a stock of coal available. So we should run stable for the next some months. And hopefully, if the coal prices also get a little more stable, we'll buy some more. So I think it's a stable situation, and we don't think we'll run short of coal going forward.
Thanks a lot, sir. So the second question is on PVC front. So we have seen incessant price hikes in global market as well as same is reflected in Indian market. So have we seen any kind of impact on the demand front because of these high prices, or even at these prices the demand is still sustainable? Thank you.
KK?
Look, the demand, as far as the PVC demand is concerned, it's definitely lower than what we were pre-COVID. Last year was the COVID again, so it's more than the last year, but it's definitely lower than the pre-COVID demand. It's actually better than last year H1 by almost 6%. The demand has gone up by 6%. But the supply is also constrained, so the supply is shorter than what we had last year.
Just a follow-up on the supplies front. Is it constrained because of the import front, or there is any other reason?
No, domestic production is maximum. I think it's slightly more than what was last year or the pre-quarter. But the imports have dropped from earlier. We used to have almost 1.6 lakh tons of imports per month, which currently is about 1 lakh ton.
All right. Got it, sir.
Supply pressures, yeah.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much and best of luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Nirav Jimudia from Anvil Research. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I have 2 questions. So one on the caustic soda business. So the last quarter you have mentioned that out of our total PBIT, what we have reported, roughly around 24-25% was from derivatives, like value-added products. So if you can explain, or if you can give us the same figure for this quarter, out of this 86 crore, how much would be the contribution from value-added products?
Amit, please.
Yeah. So that will be about same number, 25-30%. To be precise, 30% for this quarter.
30%. And sir, you have mentioned that we have been, so I think in our portfolio it's like aluminum chloride, hydrogen, SBP. These are the products what we manufacture. So safe to assume that majority of this contribution would be coming from hydrogen?
Yes.
And sir, if you can give the figure for last quarter last year, out of the 74 crores, what was the contribution from value-added products?
But see, it will largely ballpark remain in this range of around 30%. As of now, it will remain at this range. So last year also it was in a similar range.
Okay. So my second question is on power plants. So I think we have two plants, one at Bharuch and Kota. So how are we dependent on our captive source of power? So is Bharuch plant a totally captive in terms of our requirements of power, or do we buy something from outside also? How is the situation placed between both the plants for caustic?
Just to add, in Bharuch, for instance, we are buying power from the Gujarat State Electricity Board because our chlor-alkali capacity is higher.
Okay.
That's why we are putting up this 120 megawatt power plant, which should be commissioned. I think, in another about 9 months' time. We are working on that, and that will give us the advantage of having captive power available. But we have the advantage right now of we are buying over 40 megawatts of power from the State Electricity Board in Gujarat. So that is giving us the fillip over here. Similarly, in Kota also we have a contract with the Rajasthan State Electricity Board to buy power as and when needed. And depending on the requirements, we keep buying from them also. So, we want to keep the options open to buy from the state government, because our own power plants also have to take the shutdown, they have to have the planned maintenance, etc., etc. So we buy from the states in both the places.
Correct. So if you can give us some mix in terms of out of, let's say, 100%, how much is our captive and how much do we buy from the grid in terms of percentage mix?
Amit, you have that figure?
Yeah. So for Kota, we are 100% we are captive. Right?
Okay.
So buying from grid is only an option, as sir mentioned.
True.
In Bharuch, we are about 80-85% captive, and about 15% we can source from. We have to source from the grid if we go to that capacity. But generally, Bharuch, we are operating at around 90% capacity utilization, 90-95%. Yeah. And once this 120 megawatt comes in, then we are 100% captive.
And that would take care of our additional expansion of 700
Yes.
TPD too.
Yes. Yes.
Correct. Sir, and a related
Correct.
last question on this is, let's say, because there is what you mentioned, that it also depends upon the calorific value of the coal and the fuel mix what we use for our power plants. But
Yeah.
a rough understanding in terms of, let's say, if coal cost goes up from, let's say, $100 to $150, how much increase in our unit cost happens? On a rough understanding, if you can give for, let's say, even if for the imported coal, that would help, or even for the domestic coal, that would help, sir.
No, I don't have the figure. I don't think Amit really have the figure. But putting it roughly, it goes up, the direct cost goes up by about 50% straight away.
Okay.
Because of that increase, it will be about a 50% increase.
Okay. Same increase happens for our unit cost.
Yeah, on the direct cost, correct.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for answering the
Thank
questions
you.
and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Pratik Tulia from Systematics. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So just
Hi.
on the power front again, you said you're using, other than coal, a lot of other, inputs such as lignite. So we've already started, or we are still exploring on that front? And if you started, I just want to understand how much will the power cost, in this H2 come down, or will it on a YY basis will it remain stable, or we can expect that despite using lignite and all, power cost still will remain higher versus last year?
No, I think it's very difficult to give a projection of how much the price will go up and down, because coal prices are moving up and down. Lignite availability is tight. One has to get the clearance from the government and then get the approval from the government mine. So we are still working. We are getting some lignite, but we want to get some more. We are working on that even now for our requirements. So that's already being worked on. But I think it's very difficult to give a figure of what is going to be in the next quarter, because it's a very volatile situation. It's a very moving figure which keeps coming up for all the inputs required. I mean, for instance, because of the coal problem, the biomass prices have gone up. So that's having its own impact in terms of the cost. So it's a volatile thing. So I think it's very difficult to give a figure, I must say, Prateek.
Prateek, I would just like to add that using biomass and lignite is not something new that we are doing.
Yeah.
We've been with earlier as well. It's just that we are now trying to maximize it.
Okay. But
And
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
No, so just wanted to get some sense on directionally by maximizing usage of biomass and lignite, where can our power cost stand versus last year for H2?
As sir mentioned, it's very dynamic. Coal prices are rising every day, and as you said, even biomass and lignite prices are rising. So everything is at historical high. So it's very difficult to give a number.
Okay, got it. Sir, and on PVC last quarter we had 93% capacity utilization. If you could get the number for this quarter.
For which product?
PVC.
PVC, even this quarter, it is that we are close to 95-100% utilization.
Right. So, sir, you did that. Demand-wise, demand is looking good, and we are still actually below pre-COVID. So, considering that things are improving from here, but we are already at peak utilization in that sense. So, how should we look at it? From the PVC business standpoint, going forward, maybe in next 2 to 3 quarters.
JK, would you like to?
See, in terms of, we are already at the peak of the capacity utilization, so there's not much improvement that we can expect. As far as the prices are concerned, as we see them today, Q3, looking at the conditions that led to this price increase, which was the supply constraints. So we expect the Q3 prices to be firm. They could be plus minus, not what levels we have today, but they would still be firm. Q4 is very difficult to predict. Some of the things are changing very fast. It's very difficult to say what will happen in Q3. But yes, we are capable to produce at our maximum capacity. That's there.
And then on the longer term, if you could throw some light on PVC in terms of demand, because considering that prices are good and demand is also good, are we looking at any capacity expansion in that front, because we are also at 100% utilization? So would that be a thought in the minds of the management to sort of put up additional capacity on PVC?
Yes, you keep on looking at these options, but India still has a constraint that we don't have the feedstocks. The feedstock required to make PVC. You either have to import feedstocks or you have to. So it's not a very easy choice, but yes, you keep on reviewing your options every now and then. So because the demand is there, as you rightly mentioned, we're still importing more than half of our consumption. So there is demand, but we have constraints in the supply side in terms of the appropriate feedstock availability in the country.
Understood. And so just last question on sugar. In the presentation, it is mentioned that higher rate for purchase molasses and ethanol mix hampered earnings. So if you could just quantify these two things, at what price molasses were purchased during the quarter, and what was the ethanol mix?
Amit, yeah. So in terms of higher price of purchase molasses, so just to give you an example, a ballpark number, in the same period last year, we would have purchased the C-heavy molasses at around 350-400 rupees a litre. And this year the prices are almost like in the range of 600 to 700 rupees a litre. So that's the kind of change which impacted the margins. In terms of ethanol mix, essentially, I don't have the exact number right now. It's about how much of B-heavy and C-heavy. So that will impact. But the major impact came from higher cost of C-heavy molasses, which impacted the margins.
So you said 300 rupees a litre?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, molasses you would have...
Quintal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
It will be 300 rupees a quintal.
Yeah, okay. Understood. Right. Got it. Okay. Thanks a lot, sir, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Chintan Chheda from Quest Investments. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Hi.
Yeah. Sir, my question is related to the PVC business. So currently, whatever is the constant regarding the supply, okay? So we see the factors which are leading to this particular constraint, right? They are more of a structural change, or you can say more of a short-term phenomenon.
This is more of a short-term phenomenon. As you know, there were a couple of hurricanes in US, and then there were high energy prices in Europe, which led to some capacities going out of their system. So they currently is not, and there was of course demanding push also from the housing sector in US. But structurally, I don't think there's anything that's going to be seen in the long time. But this appears to be a short-term thing, which should get corrected as we go.
Okay. And sir, can you give me the breakup of your PVC and carbide contribution or EBITDA margins?
Okay, I think we'll have to look at it as a whole. The reason being that it's very dynamic as to whether we sell more of carbide or more of PVC. It's flexible, right? It's both of them are produced from carbide, and it depends on what we are getting. Therefore, I think we should look at it as a whole.
Okay, thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Falguni Datta from Jet8 Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir. So, would it be possible to share the variable cost of power for Q2 versus Q1 for our captive coal-based plant?
I'll be honest with you. In our case, because we have different power plants, different boilers, different generating sets, in Kota separately, in Bharuch separately, so the variability is very large. So I think I'll put it honestly, on a normal basis, when we, unlike now, when the coal and other prices have gone up to these degrees, in a normal basis, we are comfortably better than buying the price at the Waste State Electricity Board. But at the moment, it's difficult to give that because the variability is so high everywhere.
Okay. But do you, the way the current prices, or in other words, if you can just give in a number with whatever mix that you've used, or purchased through the SAB, how much higher has the power cost been in Q2 for us versus Q1 on a percentage basis?
Amit, would you be having that percentage basis?
See, ma'am, frankly, we don't quote our costs, right?
Okay.
As we mentioned, that there has been a 30 to 35% increase in our power costs on YOY basis.
Okay. And sir, one last question on sugar price. Though it's very difficult to give an outlook, but just that we are about to begin the season, so would it be fair to say that once the crushing begins, we could see a rupee per kg kind of correction in sugar prices from here on?
Falguni, it's very, very difficult to say, and as was mentioned earlier, the cane prices both at the central FRP level and the state SAP level have been increased. And we've been following up with the central government for increasing the minimum sugar selling price, MSP. And this follow-up has been happening for over a year now. Normally, this MSP change takes place with the FRP change. And also the ethanol price correction happens post the cane price correction. So we are awaiting from the central government change, an increase in both these prices of sugar as far as MSP is concerned, and ethanol pricing from all three products, which is cane juice, B-heavy molasses, and C molasses. So we await for the same. So it's very difficult to say about a correction at this point of time.
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side.
But what you're saying is normally in the festive season, one does see a firming up by about a rupee or so.
Okay.
Which is until about Diwali.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Darshit Shah from Nirvana Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is on the PVC side. Sir, our realization for the Q2 was somewhere around 1,31,000 rupees a ton. So what would be the current quarter run rate going on, if you can tell us?
KK, any idea how much?
Currently, it's been very volatile. If you asked me yesterday, it will be around 165. But as I said, it's very volatile. So one just can't tell you for a quarter because the changes are very rapid.
True. And sir, if you look at our profitability in that segment, chlorovinyl, it's been quite good at around 50% PBITD margins, what we have done this quarter. And even from Q2 levels, I assume the prices are up another 20% or so. So do you see that kind of profitability being sustained in this quarter as well, given the buoyancy in the prices?
As I said, we expect the prices to be firm, continue to be firm as we have seen in Q2, in Q3 also. So therefore, from a price perspective, yeah, the profitability should be okay. But as we said, there is a cost push also, and that there are very violent changes in the prices. One is not sure how it's going to settle down because the price increase in coal has been very sharp, and the availability constraints are also there. So that's also putting pressure. So it's very difficult to say. But on the pricing side, realization side, I can tell you because some of the fundamental changes that have happened, Q3 should be relatively firm as was Q2. But on the pricing side, I would hesitate to take a call because there have been very, very rapid changes and some of them are very sudden.
And so my last question again is on this PVC changes that has happened, and when we are hearing to managements of a lot of pipe companies and all, so and their view is basically that now the prices are probably, as what you are saying, is going to remain firm, and whatever prices we probably saw in pre-COVID era is a distant future now. We are not going to see those kind of prices anytime soon. So I would like to know your thoughts on this.
As I said, they are better judged because they understand the market better. But yes, they possibly will never come to that pre-COVID level kind of a thing, but not stay at what we are today. That's the understanding we have at this point of time.
And we hope they are right.
Yeah, we can do some great profitability then. Yeah.
But from a practical point of view, we've been in commodities for a long time, and we've seen commodities go up and they go down. So I think we just have to be careful and focus very strongly on our own competitiveness, our own customer service, and our own business model. So I think that focus has to be very sharp.
Sure, sir. All the best, sir, for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Sankit Shah, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Congratulations, Mr. Sriram, for the very good quarter, mainly chemical segment, and also congratulate you on the very favorable price movement of chlor-alkali product. So, Mr. Sriram, as we see, the caustic price are going up since last month. So can you please give us idea on what is the spot price currently and what is your view on the price dynamics going forward? I know it is very volatile and difficult to predict, but just wanted to know your sense on this.
I think the prices today in the domestic market are running in the range of, 45 to 50,000. But that's the spot price. And I must be honest, I think from my understanding, most manufacturers have some contracts going forward with people, because this is a product where you tie up with someone who's a long-term user. So I don't know each one's percentage, what it is. Frankly, ours is also, we've got some tie-ups which are going up in any case. But you never know what's going to happen in the next 1 week or 10 days or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Because it depends on the international price also, how that moves and what's the situation here. But this is a price indication of what it is like today.
Correct. And can I get a sense of how much of our quantity is booked if we on a fixed contract?
I don't have that just now because it varies a lot again from, some of them are a 1 week contract, some are 2 weeks, some are 1 month, some are 2 months. For instance, we had a contract with Vedanta, where we had a long-term contract with them. linked on some parameter. So that's like a 12-month contract. So, with the sort of market situation and the business philosophy which companies evolve, there's a lot of variability in that.
Okay. Thank you. So, sir, my next question is on the chlor-alkali derivative product. So, can you just give us the sense that how much of revenue is coming from my derivative product and how much revenue is coming from from the company's main chlor-alkali product?
Derivative products will be chlorine linked, that means aluminum chloride.
Chlorine linked, yes. Yeah.
Amit?
Yeah, so that will be around 15 to 20% of the total revenue from these products. Close to 15%.
Close to 15%. In terms of profitability, how do they contribute?
In terms of EBITDA, it will be around 25 to 30% EBITDA coming from these products.
Okay. So when you say 25 to 30, does it include hydrogen also in derivative, or it is included in the chlor-alkali product?
No, hydrogen is separate in our case. So most of it is contributed by hydrogen.
Okay, fine. And sir, do we see any challenge in terms of input price for our particularly chlorine derivative product, mainly aluminum chloride?
Well, I just add that you're aware what has happened to the price of aluminum over the last 6 months.
Right.
Aluminum prices are shot through the roof.
Correct.
So there is definitely an impact on the input costs.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sriram.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Navneet Bhaiya, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. I just wanted a summary of, the projects that we've announced and when is the expected commercialization date. And my second question is, in your presentation, there was a comment that, give strength of our balance sheet, we may announce future growth projects. So any initial thoughts on which, vertical those will be announced, and when are we likely to hear on that?
I think the existing projects Amit, you can brief on the existing projects which we have right now. I'll then tackle the second one.
Right. The hydrogen peroxide and epichlorohydrin, these projects should come by March 23 is what the target is. The 120 megawatt power plant is expected by maybe June, July of next year. And the 700 TPD project along with 500 TPD flaker, that should come by March. That should also be coming by March 23.
And also our grain-based distillery.
Grain-based distillery should be coming by September 22. August, September 22.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that is what we have. And as the second part of your question, as a group, we are always looking at seeing how we can add value, how we can take up something which is ancillary or value addition or expansion, whatever it is. So we are perpetually studying what's happening. Today, we've got almost 2,500 crores worth of investments in the pipeline. We are also very conscious that we don't want to stretch ourselves too much, because that we've seen the debt interest meter never stops ticking. No weekends, no holidays, no Republic Day, no Independence Day holiday. It's there 24/7. So we want to be conscious of it also. But depending on our business performance, we've got projects online we are perpetually studying. So it's difficult to give any more project commitments right now, but they're always under study.
Okay, most of our interest would be in the chemical division, or we'd look across the various divisions that we have?
We are happy to, and we are looking at the expansion in our chemical business, in our agriculture business, in our Fenesta business, in our all businesses. Whenever there's a good business opportunity, we are open for it.
Okay, so given our earnings are likely to be, given the prices currently, our earnings may continue to be good, and so would our cash flows. Maybe over the next 6 to 9 months, you may look to announce further projects. Is that a fair understanding?
I think it's too premature to give any commitment of any type, because it depends how the business environment operates, how we look at it, and we'll have to discuss with the board or what they also feel in terms of what we want to take forward.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Look forward to your announcements, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Saket Kapoor from Kapoor Company. Please go ahead.
Namaskar, sir, and thank you for this opportunity. Sir, firstly, sir, if I correct me here, sir, you told the current prices for caustic soda are in the band of 45,000 to 50,000?
It's about 45, I believe. 40, 45. 45,
Okay.
50 के बीच में है. हाँ.
Acha, sir. Sir, when we look at your presentation, therein we have shown the EC, therein the exit was 26,569 for the ECU prices and $450 at September. So the rise has come post in this 40 days only. In these 20 days.
No, you have to look at because what we've given figures is for the entire quarter. It's not given for 1 month. It's the whole quarter average. Amit?
Because, sir, in the presentation we do give month-on-month number till September.
Page 16.
Pardon me?
Okay.
Page number 16, sir.
Yeah, I am aware.
Yeah.
So we do
Okay.
one in the graph, so you're right. And majority of the increase, you're right, has come in last 20-25 days.
Okay.
So that the prices at peak have gone up from what I have shown there as $450, which was average for the month. So therefore, the increase started happening by end of September. And as we speak, the international price has gone up to $700, $750.
Okay. They are currently trading in the range of $700 to $750.
Yes.
Right, sir. Sir, and how has the chlorine math worked for us? Is chlorine positive?
Yeah, chlorine is more or less positive.
Right, sir. And can you give me some more color about how are the hydrogen peroxide prices being for this quarter and post September? How are the prices being?
See, we haven't commissioned our hydrogen peroxide project as yet. So that will come, as I said, it will come only after about year 15 months.
Okay, and what have been the price trends, sir, currently? How have hydrogen peroxide prices behaved? And if you could give...
I haven't had that boss, so I won't have the number.
Correct. My point, sir, your voice is cracking, Mr. Amit.
Is it better now?
Yes, please, sir, continue.
One thing, what I believe they have softened a little bit, the hydrogen peroxide prices, but I don't have the exact number.
Okay. And sir, can you attribute the factors, sir, which have really led to this from $450 to $750 or $700 increase? What factors have supported, and how strong is this rally in terms of the factors getting reversed in near future or in the medium term future?
See, I'll just add that there have been some plant shutdowns in the US that has happened. Then they had these cyclones and all that, which led to closure of plants. That made an impact. Some of the old technology plants, diaphragm-based plants in Europe also have closed down over the last 5-6 months. So all that has led to a little reduction. And pursuant to the reduction in demand during the COVID time, demand is picking up a little bit now. That's led to a little pull side again for these products. So that has given that little advantage of a pull, which has led to a price increase just now. But I must be honest, what you mentioned earlier, simultaneously there's been a input cost increase also. So we don't have the benefit of only a better realization. As we talked earlier in the course of our conversation, the last half an hour, 45 minutes, that the input costs have also gone up. The way coal price has gone up, or lignite, or salt, or all these things. So that has the impact also. So it's not only a one-way benefit.
Correct, sir. So, sir, any more color you can... Yes, sir, please continue, sir.
Just to add one significant factor which has led to this surge in last 20-25 days also is the Chinese government dual control policy, which CMD had mentioned in his opening remarks. That also has led to spike in, which essentially meant lower availability of the product and therefore spike in prices.
Okay, sir. And sir, what is our current power mix, sir, out of the total power and fuel? What is the mix? It is totally coal-based or a cogeneration mix? And if you could give the split up in percentage terms.
No, I'm not. Amit, you'll have to address that. I'm not sure about that.
We are fully coal-based. So I think if you're asking whether we have any...
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. That was only my question. And if you could give some color, sir, how what have been our average cost quarter on quarter, so since that has seen a huge escalation, and what are the current prices? If we could get some sense of how the coal is going to impact us going forward also. And if you could give me the quarter on quarter coal prices difference between the June quarter, and the September quarter, and how are we stacked up in terms of the power and fuel cost shaping up for the remaining next half, sir?
No, let me put it this way. If you look at the price 6 months ago of coal, it was $60, $70 a ton. It went up to $200 a ton. Freight has also gone up. So the price increase has been quite substantial. That has impacted the cost of power generation across the board. In the meantime, we've also worked aggressively on lignite and biomass and all these sort of things to offset some of the higher price increases. We are also looking at sourcing coal from different sources compared to what we did in the past. And going to the future, I must be honest with you, Saket, no one can come around and say, what is the price going to be? It's very difficult to say. So the price definitely of power has gone up. We talked about that earlier also. So it is a challenge. Our job is to make sure how we can ensure good efficiency of our power generation, have adequate raw material, which we do have, and continuously work on getting a lower price input energy. So we are working on biomass and lignite more aggressively also.
A very small point, sir. Last point. What have been the imports, sir, of caustic soda? If you could give for this quarter, and also if that would give some more color, since we are this is still an import product for the country. The demand is higher.
Caustic soda imports?
Yes, sir.
I'm not aware. Does anyone know what is the caustic soda import?
Yeah, during the quarter, the caustic soda imports were about 40,000 metric tons, and the exports were about 60,000 metric tons during Q2. And so for this first half, I just want a comparative understanding of how the dynamics for the import and export part has played in terms of this prices being supported. I don't have the H1 number right away, but the trend as we see is that exports are rising. So vis-a-vis same period last year, the trend of exports is rising.
Okay, sir. And lastly, sir, what is the expected capacity addition, sir, domestically that we are expecting in caustic soda getting on stream, say 2 quarters down the line? For the industry, sir? For the industry, what could be the capacity addition, sir, going forward?
Over next 12 to 15 months, including our capacity, I think capacity addition would be in the range of around 900,000 metric tons over next 12 to 15 months.
Come again, sir?
Over next 15 months, the capacity addition in domestic market will be close to about 900,000 metric tons.
Okay, sir. And will that be compensating with the demand, or will that create a surplus or a glut in the market? I'm just trying to make that sense.
It always happens in quality business that there will be a gap in either demand being more than supply, and then it catches up, or the other way around. So it's difficult to say whether it will, because there is whenever the capacity addition happens, it so happens that they'll come up together, and then it takes time to absorb. But overall, the business has been growing, industry has been growing at about 5-6% year on year. So over the period that it catches up.
Okay.
And I'll just add that, it depends a lot on what is the international price of caustic soda. If the international price is still high, then exports will happen. So that will be an advantage for India.
Correct, sir. And lastly, sir, 2 points on the cash flow part, sir. Firstly, in cash flow, it is seen that we have booked a loss of 13 crore rupees on net financial loss on financial asset and liquid investment. If you could clarify on that, sir.
That is a gain that we have booked because of the investments that we have. We haven't booked any loss.
Okay. This was bracket. Okay, sir. That is a less amount, right? Correct, sir. Thank you for all the detailed answers, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is a follow-up from the line of Ahmed from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Mr. Ahmed, can you unmute your microphone and go ahead with your question? There seems to be no response from this line. We'll take our next question. That's from Sanket Shah, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
So, Mr. Sriram, Mike, I just wanted to know about our chlorine sales. So, how much of our chlorine are we able to captively use in our producing the chlorine derivatives, and how much we are selling it to market?
You have the figure on it?
Yes. Currently, our captive chlorine consumption, excluding hydrochloric acid, is about 4 to 5% at Bharuch.
Okay.
And at where our capacity is close to about 1350 tons per day. And at Kota, where our capacity is close to about 500 tons per day, there almost 40% is utilized captively. The rest is sold in the market, and yeah, that's where we are.
Okay. And about hydrogen, how much is going into hydrogen peroxide and how much is we are selling it to open market?
Yeah. Yes. And just to add on chlorine, I think from Bharuch, almost 40% goes through pipeline. So that's also more dedicated consumption.
Okay.
So it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay. And from Kota, any pipeline sell to ancillary?
Kota is pipeline is very limited. It's the 40% is captive and rest goes to the market.
Okay, fine. Thank you. And on the follow-up answer which Mr. Sriram has said that the current spot price is around 45 to 50,000. So if I calculate the rough calculation, our production and sale is for the quarter is 1,50,000. So 1,000 rupees increase which translates into 15 crore EBITDA increase in our bottom line. I mean plus or minus the coal price increase factor cost increase. So is this right? So if I see 45,000, if I take the base, if we assume that price remains same, so can we see that will be almost 200 crore plus for the next quarter?
I don't think it's right to take it that way, because as we mentioned, we also have contracts.
Okay.
What we talked about is spot price.
Understood.
Different from contract price. And we are in the business in the long term, so we have relationships with our customers. So we have long-term relationships with them, so we have contracts with them also.
Okay. Understood, Mr. Sriram. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from Ahmad from Unifi Capital. He joined back the queue. Please go ahead with your question, Ahmad. Ahmad, may we request you to please unmute your phone and go ahead with your question. There seems to be no response. We'll take the next question from Saket Kapoor from Kapoor Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you again, sir. Sir, as you told that there is a part of the sale is through 2 weeks contract, something 1 month and so on. So there are then the cost escalation factors also built into the same?
No. Most of these contracts are on a fixed price basis. You don't have a cost. It could be 1 or 2, maybe we'll have a cost escalation. But if the cost, it won't be a 2-week, 4-week contract which has a cost escalation. If it is a 6-month contract, there may be some parameters of that nature. But it's not in the short-term fixed long-term commitment. These commitments are 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. There we don't have any input cost variability.
So, sir, with the type of price hike in coal, your input, the salt prices, is it also feasible that there will be a dent on margins because of the fixed price contracts and the raw material prices moving up haywire?
Well, frankly, the way things are there, it's unlikely, because we do have contracts we are entering into now, which is going to go into the future. Plus, we have some spot sale, so it should be offset.
And just to add, we also maintain inventory of coal. So, we need. It's not that we are buying coal on spot.
Because the only reason, the only reason is that the dent which we have seen on our margins, if I may use the term, in our P&L because of the power and fuel, this should get mitigated with this with the increase in the caustic soda prices going forward. That means at that time the average prices were lower than what the cost inflation was, and now the prices have moved up substantially. So whatever dent in margins we have seen because of this power and fuel cost going up, that will get reversed in the next quarters if the prices sustained here.
So Saket, there are two parts to it. One, what CMD mentioned in his opening remarks, that is something we would definitely expect, that the increase in prices should more than offset the increase in the input costs. That is one. However, we also mentioned that there is significant volatility. So there is one part is expectation, the other part is volatility. That's where we are.
Okay, sir. And sir, about the salt prices, sir, what have been the trends, sir? And I think the salt prices are product for this are dependent on the domestic environment only. So there also we have seen the prices moving up, or how much is captive for us, sir, in terms of salt?
So salt prices have gone up substantially over the last 6 months because there's a lot of export of salt which is also happening. And during monsoons, the rains also sometimes are very severe, which upsets the availability of salt. But now across the board, the salt prices are up, if I'm not mistaken, I think almost 60-70%. Amit, do you have the figure? How much salt prices have gone up by?
Because quarter on quarter, salt prices have gone up by about 20-25%.
Oh, sorry. Okay, 20-25%. Sorry?
Yeah.
Quarter on quarter, the salt prices have gone up by about 25%. Also, they were impacted because there were significant rains on the western side and some hurricanes, which led to salt works being washed away, and therefore the prices went up significantly. But yes, otherwise also there is, because of exports and other reasons, the prices have been firming up for salt.
Okay, and that has been factored in our numbers for this quarter, or sir, we have that inventory advantage here also. But I want to understand whether the increase in salt prices have been factored in for this quarter numbers, or how should we take it?
So Saket, as I mentioned that quarter on quarter means Q1 and Q2, there has been a 25% increase. So you're right, that has already been factored in. That is reflected in the results.
Okay, sir. And I have some understanding on the fertilizer segment, sir. Sir, we are only into this urea part of the story. So currently, sir, how is this segment looking like with the government policy and with now other urea plants also getting on stream? What kind of capacity addition in this segment is coming up in the next half, sir? If you could give some more color on the availability of urea domestically, sir, going forward, and how are we positioned in this segment?
Okay.
Well, we still are importing urea, so the country is still not self-sufficient in production of urea. So even the next year also, even when all the plants which are under construction or which are likely to be commissioned in the next 2-3 years, there still be imports. And today there are constraints on imports also because the import prices of urea have also gone up substantially. So therefore, as far as our production is concerned, we are not expanding anything, but our current capacities are operating at full. And we don't see any option issue or any demand issues affecting that.
And so there the major input is gases as a raw material.
That's
gas
right.
prices.
Gas is the major input. Yeah, and it's a pass-through. Gas prices have also gone up, but it's a pass-through.
Okay, so there could be a cause of subsidy building up going forward for this segment.
Yes, it can build up, but you would have seen that government is quite, proactive in this. When the phosphatic prices went up through the roof, they have increased the subsidy allocation. You would have heard it about a week, 2 weeks back. So we expect government would be supportive to this. Any increases, and if the current provisions and subsidy budgets are not sufficient, we hope government will definitely proactively act and make sure that the provisions are there. But yes, some increase in subsidy would happen because of the gas price.
And sir, there was also some energy norms part of the story also, wherein we were required to make some changes to get the benefit. Are they in line, sir?
Yes, they have been implemented already. So those norms have been implemented, and currently we are working on those new norms.
Okay, sir. Sir, when we look at this farm solution part and the bioseed part, what kind of holistic understanding should we take on for the year as a whole? Because these are very erratic and they are non-comparable on quarter-on-quarter basis. So overall, as a whole, how are these two segments going to perform for the year as a whole? If you could give us some understanding. They have been flattish if we take the first half. So both on the farm solution and the bioseed part.
देखिए आप शेयर करेंगे?
Yeah. Well, I think we expect that the H2 should be a better season because the rainfall has been adequate. In fact, little more than the normal. So that should definitely help. Unless there are more unseasonal rains, it's very difficult to. We've seen some unseasonal things happening on the climate side. But otherwise, the Rabi period, this H2 should be definitely better than H1. We should be able to make up something that we lost in H1.
Okay. And sir, in bioseed, sir, any new product, any new seed development or any new agriculture where we will be launching? Or is it the same profile?
We are launching on a very regular basis. So, scaling them up takes time. So it takes almost 2 to 3 years to scale them up. Yes, we have products in the pipeline. Some of them, as I mentioned earlier also, some of them have done well. We are able to increase their sales, and some are in the process of. So we're quite hopeful about our products to be able to, kind of give expectations that we have.
Thank you for that. I think while we are on the subject, I also want to just clarify regarding seasonal business as in sugar. We have on a quarter Q2 basis, we've shown much lower volumes, etc. But on a sugar year basis, the revenue compared to last year was down 14%, and the profits were down roughly 10%. That's just to again talk about a seasonal business for the full year, which wasn't being able to clarify earlier.
Right, sir. And more will depend upon how the sugar prices and the government increasing them going forward. That will be much more determined about, as you have told, that ethanol prices are to be revised going forward if the FRP has to be factored in.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And all the best, sir. And thank you for the improved presentation, sir, this time. I hope for the continuity, sir, and all the best, sir, and stay safe, sir.
Thank you, Saket. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I hand over the floor back to the management for closing comments.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your participation in our Q2 and H1 financial year 22 earnings conference call. We are investing close to about rupees 2,500 in various projects that span from new value-added products to capacity enhancement to cost efficiencies and latest manufacturing technologies. We will continue to make such investments that augur well for medium to long-term growth of the company. Once again, I would like to thank you for taking time out and joining us today, and we wish you all good health and safety to you and your family. And my warmest wishes to all of you for Diwali and the New Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, members of the management. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of DCM Shriram Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.